Hey, hello and welcome everybody to today's workshop. I hope you're all doing super well and it's great to see you here. Thank you so much for showing up on a Sunday to improve your retirement knowledge. If you don't know who I am, my name is Jason Hamilton. I'm a Chartered Retirement Planning Counselor and I'm the admin of this group. So thank you so much for joining us today. And if you're new here, I want to welcome you and let you know a little bit about what we do here in this group. Pretty much everybody in the group here is planning for retirement. Some of them are 6 months away or 6 weeks away, and some of them are 6 years away. But everybody is here to increase their knowledge and to get better and more prepared so that they can retire with confidence. So that's what our goal is, and that's what we're here to do. And so every single Sunday at 2 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, I'm going to bring you some sort of workshop, and maybe it's a Q&A, maybe it's just educational, or maybe it's just answering your questions on what's most important to you. And so today, the workshop I'm going to do is actually on a question that was asked in the group, and I wanted to elaborate on it. The person that asked it said, hey, can you tell me more about that? And so I'm going to dig in just a little bit today to give you some insight on that. So what we're going to talk about today is something I think is really interesting and could be really valuable for you in the long term. So I want to jump right into today's workshop and go over some of these things here that someone was asking about in the group. And I want to talk about why HSA money or health savings account money is so valuable and why you should consider contributing to one even if you are not fully maxing out your 401k yet. So this could be a really powerful training for you, and it could save you a lot of money and make you a lot of money over the long term if you have a few years left before you are going into retirement and you're looking to plan properly, especially for healthcare expenses. So I'm going to jump right into today's training. And if you have any questions at all, you can always just put those down below in the comments, and I'll do my best to answer those at the end of our session today. So let's jump right into today's training, guys. If you can't hear me at all, please let me know. But if you can hear me, please give me a thumbs up or just say hello. I'd love to hear from you and make sure that everything's coming through loud and clear and that everything is really coming in good on your side, because I would hate to go through all of this and then find out at the end you can't hear me. So if someone can let me know, can you hear me? Is everything coming through clear? Please give me a thumbs up, say hello. Okay, great. I'm seeing some thumbs ups coming through. So I'm going to jump right into today's training. Like I said, let's see here. All right, we're going to talk about HSAs, okay? So, but before we get into this, I always forget about this. So, I do want to cover that what I go over with you guys in these workshops, okay, is not intended to be personal financial advice. It's not intended to be legal advice. It's not intended to be tax advice of any sort. It's purely for educational purposes. So please don't come after me because I want to put up a disclaimer here that it is, again, for educational purposes, but this may be really, really beneficial if you're somebody who is planning for retirement and is really trying to get some things right here and want to get a bunch of tax-free money down the road, okay? So let's jump into that. All right, so what is an HSA? An HSA is a health savings account, okay? And what it is a tax advantage savings account similar to an IRA, but it's usually designated for health or medical expenses, okay? So it operates in a similar way where you can actually put your money in there. It can grow tax deferred. You can actually get it out tax free, so it's even better than a traditional IRA. And you can also put the money in there, and when you take it out later down the road, you can grow it in the meantime, and you can take it out tax-free. So a lot of benefits here, okay? All right, let's go to the next slide here. So what the main thing people use HSAs for, like I said, is for medical expenses. That's when it becomes tax-free, right? So I want to talk to you about what qualifies for medical expenses because I get a lot of questions about this. So I pulled this right out of the IRS site. Okay, so from IRS publication 502, and if you want to learn more, all you have to do is Google it, but I literally took it over from that site, so you have everything you should need to know here. I want to talk about what medical expenses are, okay? So medical expenses are the costs of diagnosis, cure, mitigation, treatment, or prevention of disease, and for the purpose of affecting any part or function of the body. So it's a pretty wide definition there. So these expenses include payments for legal medical services rendered by physicians, surgeons, dentists, and other medical practitioners. They include the cost of equipment, supplies, and diagnostic devices needed for these purposes, okay? And one more section here, that medical care expenses must be primarily to alleviate or prevent a physical or mental disability or illness. They don't include expenses that are merely beneficial to general health, such as vitamins or vacation, okay? So for those of you looking to take that trip to Florida or to Hawaii and to reduce your stress, right, or to reduce your blood pressure, that does not qualify, okay? That would be a vacation, and that falls outside of the scope, okay? So please take note of that. Medical expenses include the premiums you pay for insurance that covers the expenses of medical care and the amount you pay for transportation to get medical care. So that's an interesting one. You might not have known that. And the amount you pay for transportation to get medical care. Okay, so that might include just taking an Uber over to the hospital. Again, please partner with your tax professional, but most people don't actually know that they can use this for their HSA money, and it would be a tax-free distribution. Okay, medical expenses also include amounts paid for qualified long-term care services. We're going to talk about that today. And limited amounts paid for any qualified long-term care insurance contract. So we're going to talk about that as well today because there are limits to that. Okay, so please get your pen and paper ready because there will be some really good info on that. Okay, so what are some advantages of HSAs? Like I said, they are triple tax-free. Okay, so most people, when they hear that, they're like, okay, well, what does that mean? So from the federal, from the federal tax level, this is important, okay? From the federal tax level, contributions are tax deductible going in. So when the money goes in, you can deduct the tax there at a federal level. Withdrawals for qualified medical expenses are tax-free coming out. And in many HSA accounts, you can actually invest your money inside the account, just like your IRA. And again, at the federal tax level, your earnings will be tax-free. I bring this up because being in California, there's something really important to know, okay? So why do I specifically mention the federal tax level? 2 states differ from the federal tax rules, California and New Jersey. So in Taxifornia, California where I'm from, and New Jersey, HSA contributions are still taxable income at the state level. So are any capital gains inside the HSA for California, and in both states, employer contributions are income. So, but that's pretty lame, right? So pretty lame that California and New Jersey haven't caught up to this yet. There was another state recently that did switch over. I forget which one it is, but we need to get this fixed because California is just way out of control. But for most of you, probably 99.8% of you in this group, you are not going to have to worry about this at all, okay? But I do bring it up. So like I said, for most folks here, you don't have to worry about this, which makes HSA a serious contender for part of your retirement savings. Okay, so a few more benefits of HSAs are you can roll over money inside your HSA year to year, unlike FSAs. So if you have a flexible savings account, those have limits. Okay, so the limit for those on annual rollover is $500. So what that means is if you left $1,500 in your FSA at the end of the year, basically, if you don't use it, you lose it. So I see people all the time with these accounts, and what they do is at the end of the year, they go trying to get like some extra dental work done, right? They'll go try to get a gold tooth installed or something like that. But at the end of the day, you're going to lose this money, right? So HSAs have a big benefit over FSAs, but FSAs are usually attached to not a high deductible health plan. So we're going to talk about why you need to have a high deductible health plan in just a moment. But you can keep this money and you can roll it over every year. HSAs are also portable, which means you can take them from employer to employer, or if you change insurance plans. Okay, so there's no limits around this. When you put the money in, you can take it anywhere you want to go, basically. So these can be very convenient. And many HSAs will actually give you a debit card to pay for expenses. So I actually have one of these. So for my HSA, I get a debit card. I'm one of those people that plans on not using it till later. I want the money to grow inside there. But if I needed some money from there, I have a debit card and I can just swipe it. It makes it really easy to pay for medical. Okay, and I do want to mention the limits for HSA contribution for 2019 are $3,500 for singles and $7,000 for families, but there is an additional $1,000 catch-up contribution for those 55 plus. So another aspect that's very similar to how an IRA operates, right? If you're over 50, you get your $1,000 catch-up contribution in IRAs as well. So that's really nice. So similar in that sense, but also more beneficial in other senses. So I want to talk a little bit about some of the disadvantages of HSAs. So the first disadvantage is you must have a high deductible health plan. So these plans can be great if you're very healthy and don't go to the doctor much beyond regular checkups. But if you have chronic health problems, the large deductible payments can really add up. So they can be really, really not great. if you're going to the doctor a lot and you have to pay a lot of deductibles out of your pocket. So something to think about there. Another potential disadvantage is that if you withdraw from your HSA before you're 65, you will have to pay a hefty 20% penalty plus taxes on the money that you withdraw. Okay, so this is if you withdraw and it's not for medical expenses. Okay, so for medical expenses, again, no real limits to it. Don't have to worry about it too much. But for non-medical, there is a potential penalty. So that could be a downside or a disadvantage of contributing to an HSA. The other thing that could be a bit of a pain is keeping track of your expenses. So I'm going to talk to you about a really advantageous possible financial, I would call it advanced financial planning technique, but keeping records of your medical expenses is really important in case you were to ever be audited. You want to make sure that the expenses you have tie back and they do qualify as qualified medical expenses, okay? So it's a little bit of a pain, but again, for tax-free money, I think most of us would say we deal with that, right? Okay. So one possibly very beneficial financial planning hack, as they say, is to pay for medical expenses out of your pocket in the early years, okay? So what you do is before retirement age and before you want to draw this money out down the road, so let's say you're 55, for example, and you have at least 10 years or more, something like that until you're going to be retiring. You would pay your medical expenses out of pocket, okay? Then you would save your receipts, so you can either save them in just a shoebox or you can upload them to something like a Dropbox or something like that. Take some pictures of it and keep them somewhere safe in an online folder. And then HSAs, some of them, once you get a certain number, and it's usually about $1,000, but once you get above $1,000 in HSA, you can actually invest the funds inside your HSA. So you get very similar funds. Sometimes you can get S&P 500 funds, you get small cap stock funds, you can get bond funds in there. So it could be very beneficial, and you can actually invest that money over the years and keep your receipts, okay? So let's say you're 30 years old or 40 years old at this point, and you had 20 or 30 years until retirement. Imagine how much that money is going to be worth if you're putting in $3,000 or $5,000 or $7,000 a year, how much it's going to be worth 20 years later. Even if you have 5 years, right? Even if you have 5 years, it might make sense for you to really invest your money in an HSA and then reimburse yourself later. Because when you reimburse yourself down the road, these are tax-free withdrawals. So let's say you made 20% over time on your money. Well, you can actually take those gains out, unless you're in California or New Jersey, but you can actually take those gains out down the road as a completely tax-free withdrawal. So you could possibly pay for your medical expenses 100%, not only tax-free, but again, free out of your pocket, and that money still stays in the HSA. So that way, like I said, you can take your investment growth out tax-free unless you're in California or New Jersey currently. So I'm going to be bugging my senator and my Congress people to be fixing this, because this could be a really wonderful account, especially for those moderate income folks that have enough money to save for retirement but are looking for some more tax advantages. It makes no sense that they don't have access to this. So one other potential disadvantage is some HSAs actually have account fees. Okay, so generally they're not very high, but $5 a month can add up. So if you're only putting in say $50 a year or $60 a year, and you're spending $5 a month for this account, it doesn't make a lot of sense to do that. But if you're putting a good chunk of money, a couple $100s a month in the account, $5 a month isn't really that big a deal for what you can comparatively get down the road over from compound interest over time. So especially if you can avoid taxes on paying medical expenses. All right, so now I want to talk a little bit about who should consider funding an HSA. Okay, so I think it could be a really wonderful vehicle for folks looking for additional areas to grow their money and pay for medical expenses, tax deferred or tax free, in the future. So, like, if you're overall healthy, and you don't want to be negatively impacted financially by high deductible health plans that you will need to have. So, if you have a high deductible health plan and you have to go to the doctor once a month and you're paying deductibles out of your pocket every month, it's not going to make a lot of sense for you. But if you're pretty healthy overall, like I know a lot of folks just get their checkups twice a year, or if even that. Some people go once every 5 years, right? Let's be really honest with ourselves. A lot of folks do not go to the doctor. But if you're one of those type of folks, it can be really beneficial for you, because not only are you going to save on a monthly basis by having a lower cost health plan, but that's going to give you the extra funds you need to stuff away in a tax deductible account. So when I'm working with folks, one way I look at it is, let's say your deductible was $2,400, let's say. So let's say your deductible for your HSA was $2,400 per year. So which means you had to meet that deductible before your healthcare plan would kick in to cover the rest of your expenses. But let's say that you saved $200 a month on your healthcare insurance, right? So if you took that $200 a month in savings and put that in your HSA, well, it would take you about 1 year to break even, because $200 a month times 12 months is $2,400. And then once you met that after the first year, then going forward, you would be ahead of the game, right? But if you were to be, get sick in the first year and you had to come out of pocket, you'd be a little bit behind. But if you're generally healthy and you can get through the first year, let's say, and you cover that deductible and you put that in your HSA, well, now every year going forward, you're going to be coming out ahead by continuing to contribute to the HSA and paying, having that higher deductible health plan. So it could be really, really interesting. Let's see. All right, so who should not consider an HSA? So those with chronic health conditions that would be better served by a more costly health insurance plan with low deductible. So again, if you're going to the doctor, all the time, 3, 4, 5, 10 times a year, for example, and, these deductible costs and paying that out of pocket every time is really going to, cause you to be spending more money, then it just makes sense, right? It makes sense to get, maybe a non-high deductible health plan, someone with a lower deductible, and just pay more monthly, and it'll be a little bit easier on you on the cash flow perspective as well. So that might make a lot more sense for you to not get one at that point. So I want to talk a little bit about how an HSA could impact your retirement planning, because I actually see the HSA as a retirement planning vehicle, right? If you've been in this group for a while, you know that I talk about different tax buckets, right? So having tax deferred, tax free, and taxable buckets. It's a great way when it comes to your income planning and considering things like, doing some partial Roth conversions or other things along the way. But this, if you have money coming out of here to cover medical expenses, you will not need to pull it from a tax deferred account, which would increase your income, right? Every time you're paying out of your IRA or 401k money. So it could be really good for that. But so it could be, like I said, we all know regular medical expenses are one of the largest costs that most retirees will face besides long-term care costs, right? So these medical expenses are estimated about $4,000 to $5,000 per year for retirees in general. So I've seen some estimates saying, to have aside $250,000 just for medical expenses. I think that's a little extreme for most people. I've seen other research that most people spend between $2,500 to $100,000 over their retirement time frame. But I think $5,000 a year is a reasonable expectation. So like I said, medical, that's a lot, right? That could be your vacation, right? Or more for most people. So that besides long-term care can be very expensive. So utilizing an HSA for a portion of your retirement savings can have significant benefits over using your 401k or IRA withdrawals to pay for medical care. The number one being tax-free withdrawals. So it might make sense to get your match in your 401k. And then if you can do, let's say, a Roth IRA, for example, beyond that. And then if you have to decide between going back to your 401k or going to an HSA, it might make sense to just go to the HSA before the 401k, because you can have that money coming out tax-free later. So I know that felt like a lot of acronyms. I hope that made sense. But really looking at your cash flow strategy, not only short-term in the current years before retirement, then also what that's going to look like for you after retirement is really important when it comes to deciding where every dollar should go, okay? So very, very important stuff. Okay, and I also want to mention, I should ask you a question. Did you know that you can actually pay for qualifying long-term care insurance plans from your HSA as well? There are limits that you can pay out of pocket from your HSA, but hey, if it's tax-free money and it can go towards a plan, then that's wonderful. That could save some people 25 or 35% even on the money they actually pay for their long-term care plan. So the limits are shown here down below, that if you're 40 or younger, you can withdraw up to $420 tax-free from an HSA in 2019 to pay the premiums. If you're 41 to 50, you can take out $790. If you're 51 to 60, you can take out $1,580. And if you're 61 to 70, $4,220. And if you're 71 or older, $5,270. So for most folks 60 and older, that's probably going to cover the cost of a long-term care insurance plan for most people. I mean, you rarely see them above that unless, you're just an expensive company or you have some other health conditions that are causing it to be more. And then also, if you and your spouse both have long-term care policies, you can each use money tax-free from your HSA to pay premiums up to the age-based maximum for each of you. So like I said, based on your ages on the previous screen, by the end of the year. So these limits increase slightly each year for an inflation, okay? So I see a couple questions coming in. One being, actually I'll take questions at the end. Okay, so to qualify, the long-term care policy must cover only long-term care services, okay? And it must pay out if you need help with at least 2 activities of daily living or have cognitive impairments, okay? So that's really important. And the most traditional long-term care insurance policies qualify. If you're not sure, just ask your insurer if your policy is tax qualified, okay? So very important. You can always just ask that question to your insurer and they will help you out with that. Okay, so I want to thank you so much for attending today's workshop. I know today was a short one. Sometimes we go longer, but sometimes it's good to have short, good information. I want to mention that if you need help with your retirement planning, with your cash flow planning, with really anything when it comes to retirement, Social Security, healthcare, all those type of things, you're definitely welcome to schedule a call with me at keepitsimplefinancial.com/talk. The call is complimentary, and what I try to do there is lay out a step-by-step game plan for you of all the things you need to take care of before retirement. So if it's something you want to do on your own, that's great. There's no cost for the call. But if you want something you want my help with, then we could talk about that too. And so I offer those regularly, and I have limited spots per week, so sometimes you might have to wait. But I do try to offer that for you as a one-time complimentary call. So I'm going to talk about some of the questions here. Let me pull myself back up to the screen really quickly. Okay, so let me pull this up. Let me get some of the questions here. Sorry, let me get this over. Let me bring up my little website here that if you want to schedule a call, you can go there. And let's talk about some questions, okay? So, first question is, I am retired, but my wife works. Am I eligible for an HSA? So how this would typically work is, whoa, I have like a bunch of questions up here. Let me get this stuff out of here. Sorry, hi, okay, thumbs up. Let me get that out of here. All right, so you're retired, but your wife works. Are you eligible for an HSA? So how that would work typically is if your wife at work had a high deductible health plan and you were on that health plan, then there would be a family maximum that would be applicable there. And like I said, it's $7,000 for 2019. So that's how that would work. But if you don't have, a health plan, if you're retired already, you're probably already on Medicare is what I'm guessing. But if not, then you're on her plan, then you'd have that family maximum. So then you would be able to qualify that way, okay? All right, if you have any other questions, guys, go ahead and drop them in the comments. I will do my best to answer these for you. Okay, so next question is that I have an HRA, which is a health reimbursement account through my employer. Can I have an HSA through an insurance company? It's a good question. I don't quite know the answer to this. I'd have to Google this answer. But generally, if you have an HRA, you're going to have a tax-deductible plan there as well. So I'd actually have to look up the answer to this. So I will follow up and I will answer this later down the road. And guys, sometimes, you have to be really honest. I don't know the answer to everything, and sometimes I have to do research, right? It's just how it is. But it's a good question. But if you have an HRA, you may want to look at the crossover. I think you can, though, but I think it may not be as beneficial as it would normally be. So, okay. And that's all I'm seeing for questions. So, if you're watching this at a later time, not currently watching on Saturday, then go ahead and put a question down in the comments below. I will put my link to schedule a call with me if you'd like to schedule a call for this week or next week. And I'll put that in the comments down below. And other than that, guys, I appreciate you showing up and I appreciate you watching. I thank you so much for everything you guys do for this group and for your attention and your feedback, all right? So other than that, have a great afternoon. I will see you very soon. Bye-bye now.